Okay, so let's keep going. Um, so he brings up jealousy, at which point Othello says, I would never be jealous. I'm not a jealous person. Um, because Othello agrees that would be misery. And Iago says, poor and content is rich, and rich enough. But riches fineless as poor as winter to him that ever fears he shall be poor, meaning worrying about your money. It's better to be poor, but if you're rich and you're worried about your money, that's miserable, because you're stressed and miserable all the time. Good God, the souls of all my tribe defend from jealousy. And yeah, Othello says, I'm not jealous. He says, why, what is this? You think I'd make a life of jealousy to follow still the changes of a moon with fresh suspicions? Like the moon changes and so your mind would change? It's a metaphor. No. To be once in doubt is to be once resolved. Exchange me for a goat when I shall turn the business of my soul to such exsufflicate and blown surmises matching thy inference. He says, I would be a worthless person if I was worried about all this nonsense that you're worried about. So I'm not a jealous person. 'Tis not to make me jealous to say my wife is fair, feeds well, loves company, is free of speech, sings, plays, dances well. Like Desdemona's great. I'm not going to be jealous of her. Where virtue is, these are more virtuous. Nor from mine own weak merits will I draw the smallest doubt or fear of her revolt. For she had eyes and chose me. No, Iago, I'll see before I'll doubt. When I doubt, prove. And on the proof of this, there is no more but this, away at once with love or jealousy. She says, I'm not a jealous person, and if I was, I would find the proof. So I wouldn't live in this. You're talking about someone who is in doubt and who wonders. He says, that's not me. Now, Iago has spent a lot of time getting Othello to say, I'm not a jealous person. That would never happen to me. And so now he says, oh, good. I'm so glad you're not a jealous person, because now I can tell you my worries, and you'll be able to handle it fine. One of the things I talked about in tragedy is that tragedy comes from character. Um, Tragedy is centered in who you are. If a meteor falls on you or a dragon breathes fire on you, that's not tragedy. That's doom. Tragedy is when it comes from in here. It's sort of the something in you that causes the problem. Here, you can see one of the key problems here is that Othello, he doesn't know himself. He thinks he's one way, but really you should know yourself. You should spend some time learning what you're like. That seems like a stupid thing to say. You spend all day with you. But sometimes it's possible for a person to think of themselves very differently from what they are. I'm sure you know people who think they're nice and you know they're really mean. I'm sure you know people who think they're generous and you know they're really stingy. Here, Othello thinks he's not a jealous person, but he doesn't actually know himself. And it's that ignorance of who he really is that causes a lot of the problems here. Because he's so confident about how he's not a jealous guy, and that's a big thing that causes the problem. So finally saying he's not jealous, then Iago is finally going to tell him what's up. Iago says, I'm so glad to hear you're not jealous. I'm glad of this. For now I shall have reason to show you the love and duty that I bear you with a franker spirit. Therefore, as I am bound, right? Meaning I'm going to tell you because you forced me to. I'm bound to do it. I have no choice, really. See how Iago still is like, I don't want to tell you, but you're my commander and you insisted, so I'll tell you. See how he makes it seem like it's Othello's fault, this information, when Iago set this up like 3 pages ago? Iago's the one who had the idea, but now Othello's like, you gotta tell me. I'm commanding you. So Iago says, listen, I am bound, therefore, as I am bound, receive it from me. I speak not yet of proof. Look to your wife. Observe her well with Cassio. Wear your eye thus, not jealous nor secure. Right? Don't be sure of yourself. Just watch. I would not have your free and noble nature out of self-bounty be abused. Look to it. Right? I want you to just watch your wife. I'm not saying she's cheating on you. I'm not saying she's not. Just pay attention to her. And then he says this, I know our country disposition well. In Venice they do let God see the pranks they dare not show their husbands. Their best conscience is not to leave undone, but to keep unknown. Um, Notice what he does here. Again, one of the sneakiest things about Iago is he doesn't actually say bad stuff about Cassio or Desdemona. He just says bad stuff about people in general and lets Othello connect it to Cassio and Desdemona. So he says, listen, I know the people of my city, and it's not that they're not good people, they just hide their evil. He says that they'll cheat on their husbands, but they'll keep it secret. It's not that they don't want to do it; they just don't want anybody to find out. So he says this about all people from the city of Venice. Now this is really important because Othello is an outsider in Venice. Othello is not a Venetian. Um, he is black in a white city. He has a Muslim background in a city full of Christians. And so when Iago says, "Well, people from Venice are just like this," Othello doesn't really have the ability to say, "Oh, I don't think that's true," because he doesn't really know the people that well because this isn't his home. He didn't grow up here. This isn't where he was raised. Um, and so Othello has no defense. Because he could, if Iago said something about Desdemona, he could say, "Oh, that's not true." But if he says something about people in the city and what the people in the city are like, Othello has to think that Iago knows more about people in the city than Othello does because it's not his city. He's an outsider. He doesn't really know these people that well. And so that's a big way that that Iago builds all of this trouble. Dost thou say so? And then we get this. She did deceive her father, marrying you, and when she seemed to shake and fear your looks, she loved them most. And so she did. That is a huge. Now, notice what Iago, who is, you'd think Iago would just lie to Othello, but he doesn't. He says things that are true. This is one of the great ironies. Is that one of the great ironies is Iago uses truth to lead people astray and destroy them when you think the truth should be good. But he's right. She did trick her father. She tricked her father. She was secretly seeing Othello, and her father didn't know. Um, and so that's true. And he says, well, if she was able to trick her father, maybe she can trick you. And that is true. Maybe she could. Of course, what Othello should do is just have faith in her, just have trust in her. But Iago is like the devil on his shoulder, and Desdemona is like the angel. And you may think of this in Christian terms, that just faith in God will get you through it. But if you lose your faith, you're lost. And what Iago is trying to do is get Othello to lose his faith. So it's a little metaphor. Iago is like a devil getting Othello to lose his faith in God. But literally, it's Iago getting Iago. I'll say it again. Iago getting Othello to lose his faith in Desdemona is a metaphor for the devil trying to get a person to lose their faith in God. At which point, all is lost, and they will go into sort of. And again, I'm just saying from a Christian perspective. I'm obviously not telling you this. There's a lot. I mean, Iago is also a metaphor for chaos, and there's all kinds of other things here. But that's one metaphor that's sort of worth thinking about. So he's got him a little bit now. Why go to then? And then he hits him again. She that so young could give out such a seeming, meaning she could pretend she's so young, to seal her father's eyes up close as oak, he thought 'twas witchcraft, right? She was so sneaky that he thought she must have been stolen by witchcraft. He never suspected she was into you. But I am much to blame. I humbly do beseech of your pardon for too much loving you. You see the irony there? He says, oh, this is my fault. I only told you the truth because I love you, and now I've upset you. And I'm so sorry. That's not, I didn't want to tell you, but you made me tell you. Iago's the fucking worst. And also the best. He's the fucking, I hope that you're getting on the level with me where you can see how much fun it is to watch Iago do destruction. Obviously, this would be terrible if it happened in real life, but it's not real life. And if I can enjoy people getting killed in horror movies, then I can also enjoy Iago destroying people in this goddamn play. So, okay. And let's get to the next stopping point here. Oh, I'm sorry, I lost the second thing. Othello says, I am bound to thee forever. That's a really interesting line. He says, I owe you a lot for telling me this. But also, there's an irony here because he means something more than he's saying. It also means I am connected to you forever, which is true. He'll never be able to get away from Iago now. I see this as dashed your spirits, right? This is upset you. Not a jot. No, not even, not a little bit. In faith, I fear it has. So Othello's trying to pretend like he's not upset by this, but he is. In faith, I fear it has. I hope you will consider what I spoke comes from my love, right? I only told you because I want you have to be honest with your friends. But I do see you're moved, meaning I see you're upset. I am to pray you not to strain my speech to grosser issues nor larger reason to suspicion. I will not. So Iago says, listen, I can see you're upset, but listen, I'm not telling you she's cheating on you. I just want you to keep an eye on her. You see how that's so much sneakier than being like, she's fucking Michael Cassio. I saw them doing it. It's so much better to be like, listen, I'm not saying she's cheating on you. I'm just saying most women in the city cheat on their husbands, and you should just keep an eye on her. But probably she's fine. He brought up something unpleasant, and now Othello can't get out of his head. So I'll pick it up in the next video.